I found a decommissioned fire lookout tower that doesn't exist on any map. This happened in October 2022. I'm not using my real name for obvious reasons. If you spend enough time on Reddit, you understand why. My friend Caleb and I have a hobby most people would probably call reckless. We explore abandoned places, not to vandalize anything or steal. We photograph them, document what we find, sometimes camp overnight if it seems safe. We've explored abandoned schools, factories, even an old church in rural Montana. But nothing like this. How we found it. A few months ago, someone posted in a small, nearly inactive subreddit about forgotten fire lookout towers in the Pacific Northwest. The post was strange. No photos, no exact location, just a blurry satellite image and a short caption. Tower 12 was decommissioned in 1994. It was supposed to be dismantled. It wasn't. That was it. The account had only existed for 2 days. I messaged him. At first, no response. Then hours later, he replied, "You don't want this one." That immediately made me want it more. After some back and forth, he finally sent coordinates. But before he did, he added one more message. "If you go, don't stay after dark. And whatever you do, don't look underneath it." That last sentence stuck with me. Don't look underneath it. The hike in. The coordinates led to a remote stretch of national forest in Washington state. No marked trail, no recent activity logs, no campsites nearby. When we checked satellite view, we could just barely make out what looked like a square structure at the top of a ridge. That was enough for us. We drove out on a Thursday morning and parked at the end of an old fire service road that clearly hadn't been maintained in years. The hike in felt wrong from the beginning. No birds. I know that sounds cliché, but forests aren't silent, even in the fall. This one was. Just wind. And even that sounded distant. Caleb joked that it felt like something out of the Blair Witch Project. I laughed, but I was already uneasy. The tower. We didn't see it until we were almost right on top of it. That bothered me. Lookout towers are elevated. You're supposed to spot them from a distance. This one sat on a ridge, but the trees seemed to crowd around it unnaturally, like they had grown in specifically to hide it. It wasn't one of the tall stilt towers. It was a squat cabin-style lookout, maybe 20 feet up, supported by thick wooden beams. The paint had peeled almost completely off. The windows weren't dirty, they were fogged from the inside. The door at the top of the stairs was slightly open, just barely moving. Except the wind had stopped. Inside. The interior was almost empty. No mattress, no ranger supplies, no graffiti. Just bare wooden walls and an old cast iron stove bolted in the corner, and carved directly into the far wall, deep into the wood. Stay off the ridge after dark. Caleb immediately said it was probably some dramatic hiker trying to mess with people. Maybe, but the carving didn't look old. The splinters were still light in color, fresh. We should have left. We didn't. Nothing had actually happened, and "it feels weird" isn't a great reason to drive 4 hours back home. So, we decided to stay the night. Around sunset, the temperature dropped fast, the kind of cold that settles into your bones. We made freeze-dried meals and tried to talk like normal. Work, dating, future trips. But conversation kept fading out mid-sentence, like we were both distracted by something neither of us wanted to say out loud. Around 11:30 p.m., we heard it. A slow creak. not from the walls, from underneath us. We both froze. Another sound, this time a faint metallic tap. Caleb whispered, "Probably just the beam settling." Except the sound moved. It traveled slowly from one side of the tower to the other, like something pacing beneath us. There was no basement. We checked earlier, just open air under the structure. Then we heard it. 3 knocks, directly below where we were sitting. Not loud, controlled, intentional. Neither of us spoke for at least a full minute. Then Caleb stood up. Before I could stop him, he grabbed his flashlight. I'm checking underneath, and that's when I remembered the message. Don't look underneath it.
Caleb was already halfway to the door before I caught up to him. "Dude," I whispered, "remember what the guy said?" He paused, hand on the handle. "Yeah," he said quietly, "which is exactly why I'm checking." That's Caleb. Curiosity always wins. He opened the door slowly. The hinges let out a long, dry creak that sounded way too loud in the stillness. Cold air rushed in. The forest was pitch black. No moon, no stars visible through the tree cover, just our 2 headlamps cutting narrow tunnels through the dark. We stepped onto the platform and listened. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, no wind. Just silence. Under the tower, the staircase wrapped down the side of the structure. Each step groaned under our weight. About halfway down, I started feeling something I can't really explain, like we were being watched from a very specific direction. Not everywhere, just one spot, the tree line about 30 yards out. I kept my light off it on purpose. I didn't want to confirm anything. When we reached the ground, Caleb circled toward the center beneath the tower. I followed, my pulse loud in my ears. The space underneath was open, just dirt and rock. The wooden support beams were thick and old but stable. Nothing there. No animal, no person, no signs of movement. Caleb gave me a look that said, "See?" And that's when we both heard it again. A metallic shift. But not beneath us, behind us, near the base of the stairs. We spun around at the same time. Our lights landed on something half buried in the dirt. A metal hatch, flat against the ground, maybe 3 feet wide, camouflaged with leaves and debris. Caleb lowered his voice. "Don't," I said immediately. He looked back at me. "You serious?" I nodded. Something about that hatch felt deliberate, like it wasn't forgotten, like it was waiting. He hesitated, then slowly, very slowly, he pulled it open the rest of the way. The hinges gave a soft metallic squeal. Underneath were wooden steps leading down into darkness. Not deep, maybe 6 or 7 steps. Our lights hit the bottom. Dirt floor, wooden walls, and something else. A folding chair, facing the stairs. It wasn't abandoned. The chair wasn't dusty, it wasn't broken. It looked used. Next to it was a plastic water jug, half full. Caleb whispered, "Someone's living here." I didn't answer, because my light had moved past the chair to the far wall. There were scratches carved into the wood. Not words, tallies, dozens of them, grouped in 5s, like someone counting days. And then we heard it. A slow exhale, not from behind us, from inside, below the line of sight of our flashlights, like someone pressed flat against the wall under the stairs, listening. Caleb slammed the hatch shut so fast it nearly caught his fingers. We both stumbled backwards. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. We ran. Back inside. We flew up the stairs and back into the tower, slamming the door behind us and dropping the deadbolt into place. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my flashlight steady. "Did you see him?" Caleb asked. "I didn't see anything," I said. "But you heard it." I nodded. We stood there in silence. Then, a soft thud against the outside wall. Not under us this time, beside us, slow, dragging, like fingers tracing along the wood. It moved around the perimeter. We could track it by sound. Wall, corner, window, another corner. Then it stopped at the door. 3 knocks. Not loud, not aggressive, measured, patient. We didn't move, didn't breathe. Minutes passed. Then footsteps, walking away, not toward the trees, towards the stairs, ascending, 1 step, another, closer, until the weight stopped directly outside the door. The handle didn't rattle, it didn't shake, it just turned slowly, testing it. When it didn't open, the movement stopped, and for a long time, there was nothing. The whisper. I don't know how much time passed, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour, but eventually Caleb leaned close to the door, and that's when we heard it, a voice, low, calm, right on the other side of the wood. You weren't supposed to look. Not angry, not loud, just disappointed. My stomach dropped, because that wasn't the message we'd been sent. The message was, don't look underneath it, meaning whoever sent it knew. We didn't sleep. We stayed sitting against the far wall with our lights aimed at the door until sunrise. And when daylight finally came through the fogged windows, we opened the door. The stairs were empty. The ground below was empty. The hatch closed, completely covered in leaves again, like it had never been touched. Except there were fresh footprints in the dirt, leading from the hatch, up the stairs, and stopping directly in front of the door, facing inward.
We left the tower the second the sun cleared the ridge. Not hiking, not calmly packing up, we threw everything into our packs and moved. I kept looking back the entire way down the trail, not because I saw anything, but because I felt like if I didn't, something would close the distance. The forest was normal again. Birds, wind, insects, like nothing had happened. That bothered me more than the night did. The drive home. We didn't talk much in the car. Every time we started to, it turned into the same sentence. So what do you think that was? And neither of us had an answer that sounded sane. A squatter? Maybe. Someone living under an off-map fire lookout in the middle of nowhere? Possible. But that voice, you weren't supposed to look. That wasn't panic. That wasn't someone caught off guard. That was someone who expected us. The account was gone. The first thing I did when I got home was check Reddit. The original post? Deleted. The account that sent me the coordinates? Gone. Not suspended, not banned, just non-existent. Like it had never been there. I even checked my message history. Our entire conversation thread had disappeared, except for one thing. A single unread message, timestamped 3:12 a.m. The exact time we were sitting inside the tower, listening to footsteps outside the door. The message read, "You opened it." That was it. No username attached, just deleted. Caleb didn't want to talk about it. Over the next few days, I tried to rationalize everything. We startled a hermit living underneath the tower. He panicked. He messed with us. Simple. Except Caleb stopped answering my calls. Not completely, just differently. Short replies, delayed responses. When I finally got him on the phone, he sounded exhausted. "Are you still thinking about it?" I asked. "Drop it," he said immediately. "What?" "Just drop it. It was some guy, that's it." "You heard what he said." Silence. Then, "I don't want to talk about it." And he hung up. I went back online. I couldn't let it go, so I started digging. Forest Service records, archived maps, old ranger logs.
After a few hours of searching through outdated PDFs and scanned documents, I found reference to a lookout station in that exact grid area. Not Tower 12, Tower 17. Decommissioned in 1994. Closed after structural instability concerns. That's all the public record said. But buried in an archived local newspaper from 1995 was a short paragraph about a missing seasonal fire lookout employee. Name redacted in the digital copy. Last seen near Tower 17. Search efforts called off after 2 weeks. Presumed dead due to environmental exposure. No body recovered. The part that doesn't make sense. 3 nights after we got back, I woke up at 2:47 a.m. I don't know why I checked the time, I just did. And then I heard it. 3 knocks. Not loud, not aggressive, measured. From somewhere in my apartment. I live on the 3rd floor. There's no balcony, no exterior access to my windows. The knocks came again, this time from my bedroom door, which was already open. I sat frozen in bed, staring at the dark hallway. Nothing there. No footsteps, no movement, just silence. I turned on every light in my apartment, checked every closet, every corner. Nothing. Until I checked my phone. Another Reddit notification. New account, no post history, no comments, just one direct message. Stay off the ridge. I called the Forest Service. I shouldn't have, but I did. I told them we had hiked to an unlisted lookout structure in that grid area. There was a long pause on the line. Then the ranger asked me something strange. Did you access the lower storage area? My throat drew dry. What lower storage area? I asked. Another pause. That structure was permanently sealed in 1996. There is no accessible sublevel. I didn't know what to say, because we opened it. We both did, and someone was inside. Caleb texted me yesterday. After almost a week of barely responding, Caleb finally sent me something longer than one sentence. It was a picture. No caption, just a picture. It was taken at night, from inside his house, pointed through his living room window out into his backyard, at the tree line, and standing just at the edge of the trees, a figure. Too far to make out details, but close enough to see it was facing the house. I called him immediately. No answer. Texted. Nothing. I drove to his place. His car was in the driveway. Lights were on inside. Front door unlocked. The house was empty. No sign of forced entry, no struggle, just one thing out of place. On his kitchen table, carved into the wood, fresh, deep, you looked. I don't know what's under that tower. I don't know who's counting days in that cellar, and I don't know how something from that ridge followed us home. But I do know this. The Forest Service marked Tower 17 as dismantled in 1996. Officially, it doesn't exist. And if you search the coordinates now, there's nothing there. No structure, no clearing, just trees. So if anyone ever messages you vague coordinates and says, "Don't look underneath it," don't.